What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, talk on some of the latest updates about Lucid, and given what has happened, the rally today, whether that is going to continue or not. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So today was a pretty epic day, went up about 6.4%. There was no news from Lucid, no SEC filings. Well, actually, to be fully fair, there was a Form 4 that I'll touch on in a second that came out at 246, which is kind of okay. But the focal point of today was the Feds. So the Feds came in line with the forecast, so 5.5, so they didn't raise or cut the rates. But if anything, the speech afterwards by Powell, he was a lot more optimistic and did hint that there might be cuts sooner rather than later, potentially as early as March, as you can kind of see based on this chart. So as of today, it looks like the likelihood of a cut in March of 2024 is around 48%. So definitely a fairly good thing when it comes down to that. After hours, it's going down slightly, 1.11%, but very little volume. So not really much to talk on for that. 37.16 million shares were traded today. 29.46 is the average. So today there was a ton of money getting into Lucid. A lot of people were waiting just from that validation from the Feds, as you can kind of tell from the volume underneath right here. Like, it was relatively quiet until obviously the data did come out. So once again, I think that's a fairly good thing. A couple of things I just wanted to talk on as far as updates. Like I mentioned, that Form 4 that did come out. So it shows Gagnon. So I believe he's actually that new CFO who did take over for Sherry House, the interim one that was listed. And it does look like they did acquire some of the restricted stock on basically the same day that they were appointed as interim CFO, because it does say December the 11th, 2023. So they got possession of about 117,365 shares. So pretty good, if you ask me. They do have a grand total of about 302,000 shares. So once again, a fairly good thing. No matter what though, one thing that I personally would really like to see happen with Lucid is anybody, ideally Peter, just use their own damn money. I've brought that up in the past. Obviously, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a good sentiment, right? Because how can they believe or get people to buy Lucid when they're not really buying it themselves? They're just getting it awarded to themselves. So once again, that's just more on a side note. A couple of things that did come out though, there was this. So Lucid has assembled near 800 cars in the Saudi plant, focused on training. So once again, this shows that they are a lot more productive than what they kind of led on to be, because it did say during their Q3 earnings, they were just shipping, I believe they quoted 700, but maybe it is 800, that they were shipping the bodies just at that time. And that would reflect more so in the tail end of Q4, if not early Q1 numbers. But it looks like since the time of this, so December the 13th, so today, they did assemble 800 cars, which is very good. Underneath, if you kind of read through a lot of this, it says that they're doing roughly about 16 to 20 vehicles a day. And that is for training. So they're going slow, which technically is very, very optimistic. So maybe the AMP-2 facility might actually outweigh the AMP-1 facility. And I've been a big fan of Lucid's expansion, more specifically Saudi Arabia, because by having a fully functioning AMP-2 facility, you'd be able to ship worldwide and cheaper. So more specifically to, I guess, Europe, Asia, wherever else. So I think this is a absolute very good catalyst in my opinion. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up, it's about Tesla and their 7,500 EV tax credit. Of course, we already do know that majority of Lucid vehicles don't qualify the Gravity eventually once that does come down the pipeline. But it looks like Tesla, and since they are built in China, they are not entitled to that 7,500 federal EV tax credit starting January 1st, 2024. So that kind of does level the playing field once again. So in my opinion, that's a fairly good thing for Lucid. Just going over some of the data points from today, starting off with what shorts did and everything else. So it looks like shorts were very doubtful about Lucid going up today because they did increase about 2.33 million shares. 28.51% of the free float is being shorted. 252.44 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is kind of in line with yesterday, around 18%. Interestingly enough though, it does show through the interactive broker short availability that there is 0 shares available to be shorted. So I know I've brought this up in the past, but man, having 28.51%, that is crazy. Even back when it was like 22%, I was saying that's crazy. Like Lucid is producing vehicles, and clearly even enough based on this, like this is fairly good. Because assuming these 800 were delivered maybe beginning or second week of November, that means they're producing a faster rate than AMP-1 facility. So I don't know, it's kind of crazy to think that shorts are really hesitant about Lucid enough so that they're increasing this much. So who knows, we'll just have to wait and see. But like I mentioned, with that whole new transparency rule through the SEC kicking off, I believe it's either mid to the end of December, that's going to really incentivize shorts to close out their positions. So once again, there's that aspect to that. When it comes to options, so around $1.08 million in calls being purchased versus 6.17 million in puts. And as you can kind of see, last 10-20 minutes of the trading day, there was almost about $4 million in puts purchased. So clearly people are anticipating for Lucid to trend down and are very doubtful about Lucid's rally today. 72% in fact of all the options today was bearish. Of the options though, you can kind of see this is some of the call options, shows the strike prices, expiry dates. Based on this information, it is anticipated to close above 450 by the end of this week, and looking at puts, no different than my last update, so below $4 by the end of this week. But as I always say, options activity is just merely a sentiment. It does not move the stock price. But moving on from here, let's talk on some technicals. So obviously a lot of people really do like the Elliott wave, so I just wanted to quickly start off with that. It does have the pivot point being $4.08. Assuming it can stay above that, then it is anticipated to still be between the $5.63 range and $5.93. I kind of brought this up either yesterday or the day before, so no real change when it comes down to that. If you are looking for a lot of good compiled information though, such as this, analyst forecast for upcoming earnings, ratings, everything under the sun, take a look at Interactive Brokers, link in the description below. But when it comes down to looking at some of the fib levels and whatnot, with it closing at $4.49, it is between this P and this R1. It tried its best to go as high as it could, so the high was $4.59, so it didn't really touch this R1. The pivot point, $4.23, it was kind of bouncing them back and forth in between that today. So as it stands, that is going to be the next strong support, and then below that is going to be that $3.76. So those are some points to watch for support. And then leading into tomorrow, which does have retail sales as a data point coming out, and so far it is anticipated to be oddly negative. So the retail sales is the forecast is negative 0.1%. So if it is positive, then that could give a nice boost to the broader market and potentially have it test the $4.70 range. Above that is $4.99. So once again, let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. So overall, I do feel as of today, now the market has factored in what Powell said. So potentially a interest rate cut sooner rather than later. So now going into tomorrow, it's all squared away. We're just going to be looking at future data points and what is happening to Lucid. And like I said, one thing that has really been plaguing Lucid is just the fact that they have not been ramping up sufficiently. But this news, I feel like this hasn't spread enough because this is very good. This is something that Lucid itself should put out in actual PR. But once again, there's a lot of unofficial news that happens to Lucid and not really official stuff that they like to put out, which is kind of weird, but whatever. It is what it is. That's just what Lucid does. Let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with Lucid? But as well, if you guys have been doing options, what expiry date have you been picking for Lucid and potentially why? So kind of interested when it comes down to that. The dollar value based on the options over the last, I don't know, about 7 days has gone up quite considerably. So a lot more people are getting into Lucid via options. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. One final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo, link in the description below and also the comments. Sign up for an account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So this is a win-win. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.